Welcome to the Realtors Podcast, your go-to resource for everything real estate. Whether you're a seasoned agent or just starting out, we provide actionable tips, market insights, and success stories to help you grow your business. Tune in for expert advice, industry trends, and the inspiration you need to thrive in the competitive world of real estate. Stay ahead of the game with the Realtors Podcast.
All right, so you want the inside scoop on the Tucson housing market, huh?
That's right. Are you thinking about buying or selling?
Either way, you need to know what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to break it all down for you today. We've got Redfin's latest Tucson housing market report,
Hot off the press, this is the October 2024 report.
packed with juicy data. We're talking median home prices, sale-to-list ratios, how long homes are sitting on the market.
All the good stuff.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. First things first, what's the overall vibe of the Tucson market right now?
Well, Redfin's report tells us the median home price in Tucson hit $320,000 as of September 2024.
Okay, $320,000.
That's up a little bit from last year. It's a slight increase year over year.
So prices are still going up?
Yeah, but here's the thing. That $320,000 is actually 25% lower than the national average.
Whoa, 25% lower.
Yeah, so if you're looking for affordability, Tucson might be a good option.
That's interesting. But even with a lower median price, it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to find a deal, right? How competitive is the market, really?
Well, Redfin has this thing called a compete score.
Okay.
And Tucson scores a 49.
49.
They call that somewhat competitive.
Somewhat competitive. So what does that actually mean for someone like me who's thinking about buying or selling?
Well, it means you're probably not going to see those crazy bidding wars you hear about in those super hot markets.
Okay.
But it's not a slow market either. You know, homes in Tucson are typically getting like 2 offers on average.
Okay. 2 offers.
And they're sitting on the market for around 55 days before selling.
All right, so no instant sales,
Though.
but things are moving.
Yeah.
We've been talking about median prices, but I'm guessing there's a lot of variation depending on, the specific property in the neighborhood.
Of course. And the report actually points out that hot homes, those really desirable properties, those can go pending in as little as 32 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And they often sell close to the asking price.
Okay, so there are definitely pockets of the market that are moving faster than others.
For sure. That's why it's so important to look beyond those citywide averages and really dig deeper into specific neighborhoods and types of properties.
Right. Break it down a bit more.
Exactly.
The Redfin report also includes data for those nearby cities like Oro Valley and Marana.
Yeah.
How do those markets compare to Tucson?
Well, it looks like Oro Valley and Marana are a little less competitive than Tucson itself.
Really?
Homes there are staying on the market a bit longer.
Yeah.
You might see 60 or even 70 days on average.
Interesting. So, if you're a buyer and you're maybe looking for a little less stress, those areas might be worth exploring.
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, what is it about those areas that might be attracting a different type of buyer? Or, why are things a little slower there? Could be the types of homes, the amenities, even the schools. Lots of factors.
And speaking of different types of buyers, there's something in this report that really jumped out at me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It seems like a lot of people are actually, leaving Tucson.
Yeah.
The report says that 42% of Tucson home buyers between July and September were actually looking to move out of Tucson.
Yeah, that is pretty surprising.
It is. So where are they going? Well, according to the report, the top destinations are Show Low, Prescott Valley, and Flagstaff.
All in Arizona.
All in Arizona.
Interesting. It seems like there's a lot of movement within the state itself. Maybe they're chasing cooler temperatures or just a different pace of life.
Yeah, those are great questions. But here's the flip side. We've also got people coming into Tucson from other states.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The data shows a pretty big influx of buyers coming from Seattle, Los Angeles, and Dallas.
Those are some big, expensive cities.
Right. So you've got folks leaving for other parts of Arizona, and you've got folks coming in from those pricier places. Makes for a pretty interesting mix.
It does. And it kind of makes you think, maybe Tucson is becoming more appealing to those looking for a more affordable lifestyle.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not just about the house prices, right? You got to factor in the overall cost of living, too.
Well, absolutely.
And the report actually mentions that Tucson's cost of living is about 4% higher than the national average.
4% higher. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, even though homes might be relatively affordable compared to those bigger cities, other expenses, groceries, transportation, healthcare, those can add up.
Right. You got to look the whole picture.
Okay, so we've got the big picture. median prices, market competitiveness, migration trends. But I think it's time to zoom in a little bit and get into some specific examples. Let's talk about some actual offers and sales, see what's happening on the ground.
Sounds good to me.
So the Redfin report highlighted this one offer where a house actually got an offer 5% below the asking price.
Wow.
And this was after being on the market for a whopping 150 days.
Oof. Almost 5 months.
Yeah, with no other offers.
Wow. That's interesting. So even in a market like this, not every property is going to be a quick sale. There are so many factors at play. Pricing strategy, condition of the property, location, it all makes a difference.
Totally. Okay, so we've got that example where the seller had to accept a lower offer. But then, on the other hand, there's this 2-bedroom, 2-bath house that sold for $560,000.
Okay.
That's 2% under asking, but still well above the city's median. What do you make of that?
That's a great example of how location can really drive up prices. If you look closely, that house was in a really popular historic neighborhood close to downtown. So buyers are willing to pay a premium for that.
Location, location, location. It's like a mantra in real estate for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, so we're starting to see a pattern here. It's not just about those overall market trends, it's about understanding the little micro markets within Tucson.
Exactly. Each neighborhood has its own personality, its own little quirks that can affect the price and demand.
Totally. And sometimes those quirks can be pretty surprising. For instance, did you know that Tucson has a higher percentage of homes with swimming pools than the national average?
Really? I didn't know that.
It's true. Makes sense though, right? We're in the desert. People want to cool off. But it's a good reminder that there's more to consider than just the numbers. You got to think about the lifestyle too.
Absolutely. It's about finding a place that fits your life, not just your budget.
And speaking of lifestyle, we talked about cost of living. But what about the job market? How does that play into the Tucson housing scene?
That's a great point. Tucson has a pretty diverse economy,
Oh, yeah.
a big university, a growing tech sector, and, of course, tourism is huge here. All those things can drive up demand for housing.
Right, because a strong job market means more people with money to buy houses, which means more competition and potentially higher prices.
Exactly. And don't forget about things like infrastructure. Tucson has a good airport, a decent public transportation system, and it's close to major highways. Those are all things that make a place attractive to live and work.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Market trends, migration patterns, specific sales, cost of living, even touched on lifestyle and the economy. But there's one more big question we need to tackle.
What's that?
The future. What's going to happen in the Tucson housing market?
The million-dollar question.
Right. While we can't predict the future exactly, we can look at those current trends and make some educated guesses. What do you think? What does the crystal ball say?
Well, if this trend of people moving in from out of state continues and we don't see a big increase in the number of homes for sale, we could see prices continue to go up.
Classic supply and demand.
Right. But on the other hand, if affordability becomes a big problem, we might see prices level off or even drop a bit.
Makes sense. And then there's the wild card, interest rates.
Oh yeah, those can really shake things up.
If rates go up, mortgages get more expensive, and that could cool down the market pretty quickly.
Definitely something to watch. So it's a complex situation with lots of factors at play. But one thing is clear. Tucson has a lot going for it. Affordability, lifestyle, opportunity.
It's attracting people from all over.
It's a fascinating microcosm of what's happening in real estate across the country.
But at the end of the day, what does it all mean for you?
That's the big question.
And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Okay, so we talked about how location can really impact those sale prices in Tucson.
Right. That 2-bedroom, 2-bath that went for $560,000.
Yeah, that one.
Well, the Redfin report actually gave us a little more detail on that sale. Turns out it was close to downtown.
Ah, okay.
In one of those popular historic neighborhoods. Those always command a premium.
Yeah, makes sense. Buyers love that charm and character, plus the convenience of being close to everything.
Exactly. Restaurants, shops, parks, all within walking distance.
It's that walkability factor, right? People love being able to ditch the car and just stroll around.
It's a huge selling point for a lot of buyers, and it's definitely reflected in those higher prices.
So for our listeners out there, it's not just about finding a house that fits your budget. You also got to think about your lifestyle. What kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? What's important to you?
Right. Do you want a quiet suburban feel? Or are you looking for that vibrant urban energy?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to think outside the box. Sometimes those up-and-coming neighborhoods can offer amazing value.
They can.
Yeah.
You might find a hidden gem that hasn't quite caught on yet with the masses.
Exactly. Speaking of hidden gems, there was something else in this Redfin report that really caught my eye. It wasn't about prices or location. It was about swimming pools.
Swimming pools.
Yeah. Did you know that Tucson has a higher percentage of homes with pools than the national average?
Really? That's interesting. I guess it makes sense, though. It gets pretty hot here.
Yeah. It's all part of that desert lifestyle. Outdoor living is a big deal here.
Absolutely. And for someone coming from, say, Seattle, where pools aren't as common, that could be a major factor in their decision.
Right. It's just another example of how there's more to consider than just the numbers when you're buying a house. It's about finding a place that really fits your life.
Totally agree. It's all about the whole package. Speaking of which, we talked about cost of living, but what about jobs?
Good point. The job market can definitely have a big impact on the housing market.
Oh, for sure. More jobs mean more people moving to the area,
Which means more demand for housing.
which means you guessed it, higher prices.
Exactly. So for our listeners who might be considering a move to Tucson, it's worth doing some research on the job market.
Absolutely. See what's out there in your field. Make sure there are opportunities for you.
Right. And while you're at it, check out the infrastructure too.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Tucson has a pretty good airport, decent public transportation, and it's close to those major highways.
That makes a big difference for commuters.
All right, so we've talked about location, lifestyle, jobs, even swimming pools, but there's still one big question looming.
The future.
Exactly. What's in store for the Tucson housing market?
Time to dust off the crystal ball.
Right. Obviously, no one can predict the future for sure, but we can look at the trends and make some educated guesses. What do you think? What are we seeing?
Well, if this trend of people moving in from those pricier cities continues and we don't see a lot of new homes being built, we could see prices keep going up.
Makes sense. More demand, less supply. That usually equals higher prices.
Right. But on the flip side, if it starts to get too expensive for people to live here, we might see things slow down.
Yeah. Affordability is a big factor.
And then, of course, there are those interest rates. Those are always a wild card.
Totally. If rates jump up, that could cool things down pretty quickly.
Be definitely something to keep an eye on.
So it's a complicated situation. Lots of different factors influencing the Tucson housing market. But one thing is for sure,
What's that?
Tucson is a hot spot right now. It's got a lot going for it.
Affordability, lifestyle, opportunity.
It's attracting people from all over.
It's like a little snapshot of what's happening in the rest of the country.
But at the end of the day, what does it all mean for you?
Right. That's the key question.
And that's what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. All right, so we've covered a ton of ground here. We've looked at the Tucson market from all angles.
We have, from those big picture trends to those nitty-gritty details.
But now it's time to make it personal. What does all this mean for you?
Right. Because at the end of the day, you're the one making those decisions.
Exactly. So let's say you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm ready to jump into the Tucson market. What's the first thing you got to figure out?
Your goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping to achieve? Are you looking for a place to call home?
A forever home.
Yeah. Or maybe a vacation spot.
Mm.
Or are you thinking about investing in a rental property?
Those are all totally different scenarios.
They are. And each one comes with its own set of considerations.
Right. So if you're looking for a primary residence, it's all about finding the right fit for your lifestyle.
Exactly. You know, how much space do you need?
What kind of neighborhood vibe are you going for?
Do you need to be close to good schools?
All those things. But if it's a vacation home, maybe you're prioritizing location and those fun amenities.
Right. Proximity to hiking trails, golf courses,
Yeah.
those fun things.
Exactly. And for an investment property, it's all about the numbers.
Yeah, got to make sure it makes financial sense. So figuring out your goals is step one.
Okay, step one. Check. What's next?
Well, then you got to think about your budget. How much can you realistically afford?
Right. Got to crunch those numbers.
And your timeline. Are you in a hurry to buy? Or can you be patient and wait for the right deal to come along?
Patience can be a virtue in real estate.
It really can.
Oh.
And don't forget about your risk tolerance. Are you okay with getting into a bidding war? Or do you prefer a more low-key approach?
Some people love the thrill of the chase, others not so much.
Exactly. So it's all about knowing yourself and what you're comfortable with.
Okay, so let's say you've got your goals, your budget, your timeline all figured out. What about those big migration trends we talked about? How do those play into your decision making?
Well, if those folks keep moving to Tucson from those expensive cities, it's going to keep that demand high.
Which means prices could keep climbing.
Right. It's all about supply and demand. If more people want to buy than there are houses for sale, prices are going to go up.
So if you're a buyer in that scenario, you got to be ready to move fast.
You do. You might even need to offer above asking price to compete.
That's tough. But on the flip side, if things start to get too pricey for local buyers, we might see those price increases slow down.
It's a delicate balance.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we can't forget about those interest rates.
Those can really throw a wrench in things.
They can. If rates go up, it makes mortgages more expensive, which could make some buyers rethink their plans.
Yeah, suddenly that dream home might not seem so attainable anymore.
Exactly. So it's a lot to juggle. But the good news is Tucson is a pretty awesome place to live. It's got a lot going for it. It's relatively affordable compared to a lot of other places.
The lifestyle is fantastic.
And there are tons of opportunities here.
So it's no wonder people are flocking here from all over.
It really is a microcosm of what's happening in the rest of the country.
People are searching for that balance,
They are. Affordability, a great lifestyle, and a place where they can thrive.
Tucson seems to tick a lot of those boxes. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Tucson housing market, we want to leave you with this.
What's that?
This market is constantly changing, so stay informed, keep up with the latest trends, keep an eye on those interest rates, and don't be afraid to reach out to a local real estate expert for advice.
Absolutely. They can give you that personalized guidance you need.
Because ultimately, the best decisions are informed decisions.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's it for our deep dive on the Tucson housing market.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We'll be back soon with more real estate insights. Until then, happy house hunting.